Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction. How dare you?
Yep. The other day, I'm driving down the highway and I pass by a local electrical plant, and out the smokestacks come plumes of yellow smoke. And you know what? Everyone else around me kept on driving. I kept on driving because no one gave it any second thought. But why does that matter? Because every time I mention that my hobby involves burning fuel for fun, I get a side-eye glance that's super judgy, and it's as if I literally took a ladle of fresh air out of each nostril. I'm serious. From the outside in, the car culture is all about individuality. It's about building a ride for yourself and not giving a flying f*** about what anyone else thinks. Unfortunately, this mindset seems to fall on outsiders' minds as if we don't care about anything at all, and the environment is the least of our concerns. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. I believe that every individual in the modern first world society is well aware of the effect that the human presence has on its environment. But I don't think that everyone has the fundamental aspects right.
How dare you continue to look away?
I'm certainly positive that Greta would be able to pick me apart personally. But then again, at that age, I wasn't given the ability to go to economic forums and deliver speeches and compile them into a book that's now for sale. At that age, I was focused on getting my driver's license with a distant concern about who would be receiving income from my desire for post-secondary education. Considering that Greta has been on this planet half as long as I have and has created such a large voice for a true issue, I can only give her kudos. She is a model of confidence and change, but there is a greater flaw in the Greta era of an environmental agenda. Don't get hung up. What I truly think is the issue is the misallocated energy spent on making change. We've all heard this famous clip from Greta.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
I don't think that the majority of the world population that follow her realize that she didn't have what one would qualify as an average youth. There are many abused and neglected children in the world that deserve a forum much more than she does. Her mother is a famous singer, and her father is her manager. Very little is known fiscally about these individuals, but it seems as though they're far from struggling. Her mother has no less than 11 albums. I don't know about you, but it sounds like the struggle of a fire mixtape hustle isn't her concern. What do I mean by this? It's simple. I don't know what kind of childhood Greta had, but I assume that it's not the same as a child who was abused or the environmental struggle of a child in the third world nations. Her points come from a valiant place of empathy, but not necessarily sympathy. While these words are near cousins, they're not synonyms of each other. Empathy means that you feel what a person is feeling, whereas sympathy is understanding and knowing what a person is feeling. Greta is granted a forum by her connections, whereas one of these other children can potentially better describe the struggle of their environment. Unfortunately, this is not how a forum works. Plenty of environmentalists look at this as the most disgusting thing on the planet, but then applaud a young environmental activist for taking a net zero yacht as a mode of transportation across the ocean. I have no doubt that the sailboat was incredibly efficient and didn't require fossil fuel to run, but it definitely had batteries to store energy from the solar panels and turbines. Batteries aren't great, we know that. And also had a fossil fuel burning backup motor just in case for safety's sake. Let's dive straight into the fact that this racing yacht is a prime example of extreme opulence. It's tough to crack down the true value of the boat or the purchase price, but what I was able to find was the tune of roughly 5.2 million US dollars. Now, racing is something I can get on board with. From dinosaurs
and T-Rexes away
to boats, if it involves speed and competition, I'm interested. To back up my point, here's another joyful clip of fossil fuel being turned into The boat itself is net zero, but the industry to build and maintain it is not. If you look at the microenvironment of the boat itself and the water it sits in, great. It's an ethical and environmentally friendly choice. The macro environment, lesser so. Greta using the boat to travel is theoretically net zero. But as remarkable as she is, she can't sail the boat. Certain crew members actually had to fly to where the boat is. So it means that overall in the big picture, the boat itself was not net zero for this excursion. I mentioned earlier on that the issue is misallocated energy. And I mean that. Taxing carbon and fuel isn't going to create change. It may create a small percentage of revenue that might be used for environmental initiatives. The push to the electrification of cars and burning less fossil fuel also doesn't take into consideration the industry of manufacturing the electricity and storing the electricity, both within the vehicle and the entire grid. The solution is actually quite simple. We must each carefully consider the fair and ethical practices of what we consume. This could be coffee, this could be avocados, or it could be your mode of transport. The automotive industry is actually full of examples with regards to material usage and consumption. The sheer size of the industry forces the search for solutions. Here's a cool example. Ford has been working with McDonald's with regards to the bio-waste of coffee bean chaff. The shell that is waste after coffee beans are roasted is now being turned into an alternative for plastic. Ford used this waste and created a special blend of ingredients that was stronger, lighter, and had better thermal properties than the equivalent plastic. This is the type of thinking that creates change. People who make solutions, not just create hype. In the end, it comes down to one main factor: yachts versus Hyundais. Unfortunately, the idealistic view of Greta is lost on the fact that every decision you make is based on your purchasing power and not necessarily your ethical conscience. Speeches call for change among politicians and capitalists, but where it happens is with the consumer. Don't judge my hobby as the issue when all I do is think about change.